Welcome back again to this course, Introduction to the Java Programming Language, a presentation of coding boot camps. This is our 10th and final session, and this is files and streams. So a brief recap, we've discussed polymorphism, we have discussed inheritance, so we've discussed applications using that convenience of encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and we looked at how useful it is. In this session, we're going to discuss the concept of a stream, a class file, sequential access, object serialization to and from sequential access files, and additional Java I/O input-output classes. The materials are just these PowerPoint slides. So what is a stream? So a stream is data. So in Java, input-output or I/O streams are flows of data that you can either read to or write from. So they can be files, it could be the keyboard, it could be the console or the monitor. Streams are typically connected to some data source or data destination. So the data source could be a file or and the data destination could be a file or the monitor. So, or it could be or it could be a network connection. And a stream has no concept of index, of read, or written data. You cannot move forth and back in a stream. A stream is just a continuous flow of data. The class Java I/O input stream is the base for all. It's the base class for all Java I/O input streams. So it's like that class library. So we import the Java I/O class library or the input stream class library, and then we have access to all of the Java I/O classes so we can make use of them. So if you're writing a component that needs to read input from a stream, try to make a component depend on an input stream rather than any of its subclasses. Doing so makes your code able to work with all types of input streams instead of only the concrete subclass. So let's take a look here. So we've already imported the I/O stream, and what we're doing here is we're declaring this file, and notice how we're declaring it. We have to use these double slashes, and so we have this class file input stream, and we instantiate it, and we create the input object that's of type input stream, and then we take input here, our input object we call read on it, and then we begin to read all of the data from this file to this variable data. And then while data is not equal to -1, we read in this case, we read this input file. And then there's output. So we have an output file that we declare. Notice the path here. And then we're going to write hello world, and we're going to call get bytes. And then we're going to close the file. It's important to close the file so the file's not left open. Java will eventually close it, but it is important to close the file so we don't get any characters, unwanted characters in that file. So a class file. What is a class file? It's an abstract representation of a file and directory path names. So user interfaces and operating systems use system-dependent path strings to name files and directories. So this class presents an abstract, system-independent view of hierarchical path names. So an abstract name has two components. We have the system prefix, such as the disk identifier, and for Unix, the root directory, or for Microsoft, we have the slashes here. Sometimes it's called the UNC path name, and it's a sequence of 0 or more string names. And then sequential access. So in Java, files are nothing but a sequential stream of data terminated by an end of file marker. So there's a certain character in there called end of file. And the end of file marker is denoted by a special mark of counts of total bytes recorded in the system maintained file data structure. No matter what the internal file data structure is, a Java program receives a consistent end-of-file indication from the JVM, which in turn is informed appropriately by the underlying operating system. So processing a stream of file data in Java is not only seamless, but it is consistent across multiple platforms. So Java gives us these tools through the I/O library, so we have a consistent way of reading and writing from files and other sources. This file stream cannot be used for both data input as well as output to and from a file as a stream of characters, or it could be bytes. Byte-based streams are mainly used for storing, manipulating data in a binary format, whereas a character-based stream stores and manipulates data as a sequence of characters. So that's your basic file, that text file that we're all used to. And Java provides a mechanism called object serialization, where an object can be represented as a sequence of bytes that includes the data, the object's data, as well as information about the object's type and the data stored in the object. So after that serialization, data can be written to a file and it can be read from the file. Deserialized, that is the type of information, the bytes that represent the object, and the data that can be used to recreate the object in memory. Classes, and this is important, object input stream and object output stream are high-level streams that contain methods for serialization and deserialization. So these are our classes that will instantiate and we'll be able to call certain methods for serialization and deserialization. And we can see here we're using we implement this interface here, Java I/O serializable, and we have our data and our methods. And again, we can see here we are importing the Java I/O. We have our class serialization demo. And we can see here in our main method, we are declaring a new employee. We're giving the employee a name and an ID. And right here, we have our file that we are opening, and that'll be our file out. And then we have our output stream here called out, and it's a new output stream. And we're taking that file from file out, which is right here. And we're writing to the object, closing it. And we're also closing out the file out, and we're outputting here to the console, just back to the user to let the user know that the serialized data is saved to this particular file. And as we can see here, here's our deserialization. And along the same lines, we have our main method. We notice the try catch again because we could input an error, but there is this file again. And that we instantiate file input stream, and our object is called file in. Then we also instantiate object input stream in, and then we can read back. And then we can close the file. So we're reading from the file in, which is right here, and then we are, if not, we are handling the exceptions. So in this lesson, we learned about the concept of a stream, the class file, the sequence access, and then the object serialization to and from sequential access files, and additional Java I/O classes. So please do take a look at those examples. Again, we have our information for our live coaching and private tutoring. And for more software engineering classes, we offer Introduction to Python Programming, Introduction to C Programming, Learn C++ Programming by Examples, and Introduction to Go Programming. Some follow-up classes, Java Programming Intermediate, and then Learn Kotlin Programming by Examples. Thank you for taking this course. This is the Introduction to the Java Programming Language, and again, this was a presentation of Coding Bootcamps. Again, my name is Jim Sullivan, and it was a pleasure working with you.